Hey everybody, it's Farman here again, and I'm doing my last coin roundup video. Again, the one thing I wanted to make sure that everybody remembers is just because I put a coin on this list doesn't necessarily mean I think it's a good investment. Just so you guys know, of all the coins on this list, the only ones I've recently put into my money into, there's only 3 of them on the list. Okay, so some of the other ones I've owned for a while, but there's only 3 on this list of coins I'm talking about that I've recently put money into. So I'm not, I want to stress this. I'm not saying, anything on this list is a great investment. You got to make these decisions yourself, and you got to figure it out yourself. But let's just jump into it. So for the first coin today that I want to talk about, this has been my favorite coin for a while. It's Zcoin. The reason why I really like Zcoin is it uses the zero coin protocol. It's a zero knowledge cryptocurrency. I like the zero knowledge cryptocurrencies. I'm not as big of a fan as the cryptocurrencies that use ZK snarks, just because of the fact that if they get hacked or bugged as far as the private network, like we talked about yesterday, you don't know it. With zero coin, it uses one-way zero knowledge, so the burn tokens that the zero coin protocol uses always relay back to the original coin. So you have zero coin, and then you have the burn tokens that you create for the zero knowledge transactions. But each time you spend a burn token, it comes back and it relays back to the original zero coin. So the burn token will get spent, it'll go to somebody, that burn token gets destroyed, and that person then has Zcoin. And so the reason why this is a big thing is with the zero cash protocol, the things that stay on the burn blockchain, like you don't know what's going on there. So like you can't relay it back to the original blockchain and know for sure that the cryptocurrency, or at least the token, like you can't know for sure that there aren't extra burn tokens. Okay, so for zero coin, if there's extra burn tokens, because it comes back to zero coin, it'll mean you'll have extra zero coin. And you know how many zero coin there are? There's 21, well, not 21 million now, but there will be 21 million. So if you have extra zero coin, then you know that a bug has occurred. And just so you know, this did happen to Zcoin once. So when people say, oh, like, you don't have to worry about that for Zcash, you sort of do. Again, it's not a huge issue because a lot of times it happens accidentally. People don't know what's going on, and then you'd also have to exploit it. And it's not easy, like it's not something easy to exploit for something like Zcash, but it's something you really need to know about. So I really like Zcoin because of that. It also uses RSAs. So the ZK Snarks protocol, it's completely new. There's only a couple people in the world who really know much about it, and even then, because they're the only people in the world that know about it, you can only be so confident if you're only one of the few people in the world who understands it. With RSAs, like your bank account uses RSA protection, like everything in the world uses RSA protection. So if you can, like if you're worried about the RSA protection Zcoin uses, then you have to be worried about basically everything that is secured digitally in the world. So it uses really battle-tested security technology, and I love that. It's also the first proof of work zero coin cryptocurrency, at least as far as I know. I'm pretty sure it's the first proof of work zero coin crypto. Again, when zero coin came out, ZK Snarks was coming out, and everyone was more or excited about ZK Snarks. I'm not as excited about ZK Snarks. I still think it's a great protocol. I still think it's a great thing. I've invested in Zencash. That's one of the 3 coins I've invested in, and Zencash uses ZK Snarks, so I don't think it's a bad, like I don't think it's something that should necessarily turn you off from investing in it, but that is a security issue with those ZK snarks. And so zero coin, you don't have to worry about that. You still get the zero knowledge, it's just you don't have the ZK snarks. Now the one thing you do have to know about zero coin, I guess I'll hit the fourth point first, but it's a lesser known zero knowledge coin. That's just because, again, all the hype was on Zcash, and so whereas Zcash, there's a bunch of forks for it and a bunch of like copies of it, zero coin doesn't really have forks or copies. Pivx uses the zero coin protocol, but it's proof of stake, so they're completely different markets. They're competing in different markets, so they can both work together and they can both, be used at the same time, and it doesn't really matter. Whereas with like Zcash, if Zcash is like Zcash and Zencash kind of compete for the same thing. So does Zclassic. So does another cryptocurrency called Hush that I'm going to talk about. But there's a lot of different ones for the ZK snarks. And with Zcoin, it's kind of Zcoin if you want proof of work, and then Pivx if you want proof of stake for the zero coin protocol. So that's always nice. It makes it simpler if you're investing. And the good thing about both Zcoin and Pivx is they have pretty low market caps. compared to what they could be. So let's keep going on here. The last thing you need to know about Zcoin, and this is sort of the big issue with it right now, and again, I've tried to put, at least one bad thing about every coin in these videos, just so you know the ones that I'm less confident in. Generally speaking, I talk more about the bad things in them. So that's a way to gauge, which ones I'm more confident in. And again, my confidence in a coin should not translate over into your investing strategy. You have to understand these coins for yourself and make the decision yourself based on what sort of risk you want to take and what sort of rewards you want to make. But anyways, the bad thing about Zcoin is the transaction size. So with Bitcoin, transactions use about 256 bytes, I think. And so this all goes into the blockchain bloat problem. One thing I don't like about a lot of cryptocurrencies is that they don't tell you how much data goes into a transaction. With Zcoin, I think when it first began, I think the sizes of the transaction were maybe 4,000 bytes, something like that. So it was significantly larger. That's like 40 times larger, or not 40 times, 16 times larger, I'm sorry, than the 256 bytes, something like that. I know that there's been research into Zcoin where they think they can lower the block size to 1 kilobyte. So 1 kilobyte is only 4 times larger than a Bitcoin transaction. And so if you're saying you're going to have 4 times the blockchain bloat, but you're going to have, perfect privacy, which you can't get with Bitcoin without, paying a huge amount of money, and you can't get the zero knowledge with Bitcoin without using, a side chain or something like that. So if it can lower the transaction data down to 1 kilobyte, then that would be absolutely great. Like, that would be massive, because then it's only 4 times the size of a Bitcoin transaction, which isn't all that much bigger. It's definitely doable. So that's the one thing you want to pay attention with Zcoin and a lot of the other zero knowledge cryptocurrencies, is the transaction data size might be a little too big. That's also, I do believe, for ZK Snarks, they have lower transaction data per transaction. So I'm pretty sure that's one of the big reasons why ZK Snarks, like the researchers, decided to move over to that and create zero cash, was because they wanted to have lower sizes for their transaction data. But anyways, that's something you should probably look into yourself. These next 3 coins I'm going to talk about, not so sure about them. They're all low market cap coins that I don't necessarily know all that much about. I know enough to talk about them, but just remember, I don't know a huge amount on these coins. But the first one I want to talk about is Hush. This is another one that uses the zero cash protocol. Just like I said, Zencash uses it, Zclassic uses it, Zcash uses it, Hush also uses it. The one thing I like about Hush is it has a super low founder's pre-mine. So a founder's pre-mine is almost like a founder's reward. Again, I've always said, I think founders' rewards should be low. I think they should be low, but if you have no founders' rewards, that can be an issue. So with Zclassic, the big issue I had with Zclassic was there's no founders' reward. So how do you know the devs are really going to work hard on it? You don't really. With Hush, it's got a founders' reward of less than 1%. It's around half a percentage point. That's very small. And the one thing that's great about this is it almost seems to indicate that the developers believe in their coin. The one thing that I like, people might say, oh, a founders' reward or a pre-mine similar to an ICO. No, it's not, because the coin doesn't have value in the beginning. So if you're immediately selling your coin for money, like if you're a venture capitalist, one thing that venture capitalists always say is they want the creators of the company to work for 3 to 5 years without getting paid, because that proves that they're invested in it and they actually believe in what they're doing. So with something like Hush, they only took half a percentage point, and that's not going to be worth much of anything unless the coin takes off. So I like that in the fact that they won't make money off this unless they go balls to the wall. So I like that. That being said, whether or not Hush works is completely dependent upon the developers, and I don't know much about the developers, so I can't say much on it. This is one that I knew about beforehand, but I've only recently done a little bit of research into it, so I don't want to say too much about it. But because it's a zero cash protocol coin, I understand those coins very well. But again, whether or not this succeeds, it depends on the developers. It's got to offer something unique, and it's got to offer something unique because there's so many Zcash forks and copies. The next one I want to talk about here is this is a weird named coin. It's called Grossel coin. Just so you guys know, Grossel, it's like I don't know what language it is. It's meant to mean hash, as in a hash function, but it also means hash as in a potato dish, almost like, you say hash brown, so it's supposed to be almost like a play on words. But anyways, Grosso Coin's been the best performing crypto this year, I do believe. Like, it's gone nuts. I don't like, that's not, generally speaking, a good idea to invest when it goes nuts. That's not when you invest. You invest after it has a pullback. But because it's done so well, I think it's worth mentioning. It uses super energy efficient mining algorithm. What I mean by that is it's like meant to be ASIC resistant, and it's also meant to not use up a lot of resources. Like Bitcoin mining requires a lot of electricity and hardware and stuff. Grosso Coin, it's basically like an ASIC resistant thing. Again, I don't think ASIC resistance is necessarily a huge thing, and that seems to be one of the main selling points of Grosso, so I'm not sure that it's necessarily the best thing to invest in. I don't know, but I'm watching it because it's interesting to me. Some things that I don't like about it is it doesn't seem to have too many privacy options. I don't know if it offers stealth addresses, but there's no coin join or zero knowledge or anything like that. So I'm not sure about that. Hopefully it'll offer stealth addresses, because basically any cryptocurrency can do that. And stealth addresses are a nice thing to have. The next thing you got to understand is that it doesn't, or not only does it not have privacy options, but another bad thing is that the block reward drops 6% a week. Now, they say this is so that the coin doesn't do, or it can't be pumped and dumped. Well, one thing you have to remember about pump and dumps are not done by intelligent people. You can't really manipulate a market and pump and dump it. Pump and dumps basically occur because of stupidity. So when I called Chainlink a pump and dump, that was because of the stupidity of Chainlink. I called ARC retarded. I probably shouldn't have put retarded in the slide I made on ARC, but whatever, I did. I'm not going back and changing it. I do think that the developers on ARC are not intelligent, so I could have put a slide that said the developers on ARC are retarded. That would have been more accurate. I just don't like ARC as a coin, especially because it destroys the blockchain. But anyways, I guess that was kind of a useless tangent there. Getting back to this though, with the block reward dropping 6% a week, they say this is to make sure that it doesn't pump and dump, but this could actually create a pump and dump, because of the fact, like, the rule for percentages is that you divide things by 7, or like you take the percentage and divide 72 by the percentage, and that tells you when a doubling will occur. So this is, not a doubling but a halving. So if it's 6%, 72 divided by 6 is 12. So the block reward halves every 12 weeks. That's 3 months. Jesus, man, I don't like that at all. Like, I don't like that at all, because it makes it so the first comers should make a shitload of money, and everyone who comes in late is going to have a lot of trouble. Like I said, the lower the block reward gets, the worse it is for newcomers. So this seems to be really bad for newcomers. But again, just because of how well it's done, I'm putting it up here. I think it's one to watch, but it could be one to watch that crashes and burns. I have no idea. I've only done a little bit of information, but I just wanted to throw this up here because there's been a huge amount of transaction volume with Grosso. The next thing is that it's hard to find information on the developers. I think the main developer, his name is Igor, and he's from like Latvia or something. I always prefer the developer to speak English because I speak English, and if he doesn't speak English, then I can't learn much about the coin. So Grosso is interesting to watch. It might be something to watch crash and burn. I have no idea. This is, again, a coin I don't know all that much about. The final coin I want to talk about, though, is Cloak coin. Now, Cloak coin, again, this is a coin like Hush, where I knew a little bit about it. I've done some research on it now, but it's a coin that uses basically a setup I understand. So Cloak coin is a coin join coin, but it uses off-chain mixing. The reason why it uses off-chain mixing is to deal with transaction bloat. Transaction bloat, I guess, blockchain bloat. If you use CoinJoin, that's more transactions on the network, so that's more bloat by definition. So CoinJoin with Cloak coin, it does it through off-chain mixer nodes. So I don't understand specifically how this works. Again, I got to do more research on this. And the one thing I do want to make obvious here, or make the one thing I want to elucidate about Cloak coin is it's when even though it does off-chain mixing, you still keep the blockchain. So I talked about how ARC is bad because it does everything off the blockchain, and it doesn't even allow you, like almost no one on ARC actually downloads the blockchain. With Cloak coin, you keep the blockchain and you have the blockchain. It's just the mixing part is done off of the blockchain, and the mixers are supposedly never touch the coins. Now, I would have to do research into this to fully understand how this works. If it works as it says, that's very interesting and that's very cool, because to mix off off chain, if the coins never, go off chain or go to any other party off chain, then you're not actually trusting anybody. That's very interesting. But one of the problems with this, and this is the fifth point here, is that the mixing fee is a bit high. It's 1.8% on Cloak coin. That's kind of high if you think about it. Other cryptocurrencies, it's like a small flat fee of like 20, usually below $1. So if you're doing a really big transaction with Cloak coin, the mixing fee at 1%, 1.8% can be quite a bit. That being said, if you compare it to the modern banking system, generally, like, you can't get as private as Cloak coin would make you, and it's 1.8% is not the worst fee in the world, but it might be a little bit high. It's also a low market cap coin, but because it uses CoinJoin, like, it might need something more to differentiate itself. The off-chain mixing is good. I don't know if it's enough. I said this so many times. Like, if you want to have a coin succeed, it has to have something to differentiate itself. But anyways, that's the end of this coin roundup here. Again, a lot of these coins on these coin roundups, they're ones that I'm just watching. I'm not putting videos on these and saying, you should buy. I'm not buying all of these coins. These are just ones that I'm watching, ones that I think are interesting. So anyways, like I said, there's not going to be very many more coin roundup videos coming out, if any, in the short term. I'm going to focus on other type videos, but I hope you enjoyed these coin roundups, and there will be more videos about cryptocurrencies coming out in the near future.